What is up, guys, and welcome back to a brand new episode of Career Mode. Before we get stuck into the video, I want to draw your guys' attention to a bit of a competition that's being held in Canada for you guys locally. Basically, there is a Gran Turismo sport competition that is being held literally right now. Online qualifiers are open, and basically World Gaming and Cineplex are basically looking for their their fastest driver from Canada. So essentially, it's a competition on GT Sport. It's open right now. Online qualifiers are free to enter, and you can go and compete in that right now. So there's an awesome prize package. I think $25,000 worth of prizes to be given away. There's a lot more details in the link down in the description. So if you want to see more about that competition, check the link in the description, and you guys can be a part of that. So with all that out of the way, let's get on with career mode. You can see we have already run the Austrian Grand Prix. Now, there was a bit of an issue that happened on my end with this. I did the first half of the race. I did a mid-session save, and then literally 2 seconds later, I had some kind of power surge or power cut, and I lost the footage for the first half of this race. Now, the second half of the race was actually really boring. Literally nothing happened, and we just drove home to the finish in third place. We were slower than both the McLarens, but faster than the rest of the field. A very frustrating scenario to be a part of, but that was the Grand Prix. So I'm not going to bore you with the details of that. So, as a consequence, we have lost some points to Fernando in the driver's standings. We've now fallen to second, but on the contrary, we are now the first team driver for Red Bull Racing. So now that means we can get faster upgrades, well, technically, because we get more resource points, and yeah, we just get, I don't know, maybe better preference. We might be the first one to get pit stop preference, because Daniel, I've noticed in the last few Grand Prix, has been undercutting me a lot, and now maybe I'll get the preference. But we're going to head off for the British Grand Prix now for qualifying. We're doing pretty well in terms of engine management. We're going to have to run this gearbox to its death for the second component, but apart from that, we should be in for a pretty good weekend. So let's see how we go.
Welcome to this afternoon's qualifying session here at Silverstone for the British Grand Prix.
Thank you very much, Crofty. Let's jump right into the action here in Q1, going fastest with a 127.3. That was very short-lived, because literally about a minute or two later, the McLarens really brought me back down to earth, putting me in P4. Moved on to Q2. I improved by a couple of tenths and into third place, but still, the gap to the McLarens was insane. Even the gap from Van Dorn to Alonso is pretty ridiculous. But as we head on to Q3 now, a very sobering 2 qualifying sessions we've been through so far. Given the deficit to the front 2 guys, I decided, okay, we're not going to get pole position. Let's just forget about that concept and just go for the one run and try and get third place, best of the rest. That's all we can really hope for, and we'll save a little bit of our engine in the process. I can't remember, but I was doing some engine saving in Austria. I was running like the second components that were near on 50%. But for Silverstone, no, we've chucked in the third one, and that's actually quite fresh. So we should have a pretty good chance here in the British Grand Prix. But in saying that, the aerodynamic capabilities of the McLaren is just, it's night and day versus the rest of the field. And this is a track that really suits them down to a T. So I've done my best to run as little aero as I possibly can while maximizing the corners with like 2.5 wings, aggressive rear ballast, and a really good lap in Q3. It still was not good enough to get third place. I was actually really surprised. That was the best lap I did all weekend, improved by 5 or 6 tenths, I think, over my Q2 time. But I did worse versus the first 2 sessions, which was just absolutely dumbfounding. But yeah, that's where we stand at the moment. P5 for the British Grand Prix, near on 1,000 resource points, which, by the way, I'm building towards a second major upgrade to the aero. So we're going to do rear downforce this time. We did the front major downforce a couple of races ago. Now we're going for the rear, and that will make for a much more balanced aero package for this car and in challenging McLaren for the second half of this season. But because we've only joined Red Bull this season, we have a lot of the perks that we had from McLaren. They're not with us now, so it's going to take a lot longer for these developments to go on the car. Something like 4 weeks or something. Yeah, 4 weeks for a major upgrade. The front downforce is only going to be on in time for Spa, and that's if it does go in for that race. It could well be declined. But for the rear downforce, we're not going to even have enough points until like the next episode. And then 4 weeks after that, that's like Singapore, Japan territory. So we're leaving it quite tight in terms of upgrades. This might be the last major upgrade we do. But for the rest, it's probably going to be minor. So we can chuck those other minor upgrades in fairly quickly. But we're getting very pressed now for doing upgrades. We are certainly not going to get close to McLaren in terms of raw performance. But hopefully we can bridge the gap a little bit. And I hope that reliability strikes or just luck to bring us close. That's what I'm hoping for so far. Enough waffling. That's the strategy heading into the British Grand Prix. I'm hoping for a podium, in all honesty. McLarens are just too fast around this track. So we'll see how we go. Let's go to the race.
Well then, after an exciting qualifying session yesterday, let's take a look at how the cars line up. What a qualifying from Fernando Alonso. He starts from pole position, and it's Stoffel van Dorn in P2. Looking down the rest of the grid, we have Hamilton, Vettel, a Red Bull, and Raikkonen, Bottas, Perez, Ocon, and Daniel Ricciardo, Grosjean, Hulkenberg, Kevin Magnussen, and Massa, Sainz, Kvyat, Jolyon Palmer, and Lance Stroll, Wehrlein. And Marcus Ericsson rounds off the grid.
Alright then, so here we are on the grid of the British Grand Prix, starting in position number 5, as you guys saw from qualifying. The race strategy is always a one-stop around here. It says to go on the supers to the mediums, but to be honest, I know from... Oh, hello, there's a cat in my room. I know from history you can go onto the soft compound tyres and run to the end of the race. So that's what we're going to do. It's like 3 or 4 seconds faster versus the safer, more conservative strategy. So, I mean, if there is a bit of like time to be gained there, maybe that'll be the chance we need to get close to the McLarens. We'll have to wait and see. We do need to dispatch both, Sebastian Vettel and Lewis Hamilton right in front of us as quickly as we humanly can to give ourselves the best chance to fight against those McLaren Hondas. Sebastian Vettel is on the soft compound tyres for the start of this race, so he might be slightly easier to negotiate early on, but he will be tougher to fight later on with his tyre wear being much better than ours. Away we go for the British Grand Prix. Start-wise, it wasn't that great. I think Kimi Raikkonen is going to draw alongside us as we head into turn number 1 here. We managed to, just about hold position there up the inside of Hamilton. We'll go into turn number 2, and that should be a move completed into P4, and that is job done. A little bit of a lock-up heading into turn 4 though, and Hamilton does not need a second invitation. It's going to be side by side as we go through turn 5, and literally just a straight line speed test between us and the Mercedes Works powered car. We had a bit of slipstream from Sebastian Vettel as well, which definitely helped us in getting in front of Hamilton. We squeezed him out through the middle sector, and that was the first lap. We now encounter Sebastian Vettel now slowly as we go through turns 2 and 3 up the inside, and that should be moved done as well. No, he kind of holds it in there as we go into the next left hand, and there's actually a bit of a shove there from Vettel, and I don't know if he got front wing damage. We certainly didn't, but that is not the way you want to be treating your rivals. And the early laps of a long Grand Prix, that was so silly. He had so much space as well, but he just completely squeezes there on the outside, and we've now got P3 next up with the McLarens, but you can see the damage is already done. They're like 4 or 5 seconds up the road already, which is very, very scary. So for the next few laps of this stint, I tried my best to try and close them in, but you can see the gap is only extending now. It's like a second a lap to both the McLaren Hondas. This is Stoffel van Dorn in the slipstream and DRS of Fernando Alonso. He goes to the inside, and he will take the lead of this British Grand Prix. We've seen a real form change from Stoffel in the last couple of races. I think he beat Fernando. No, he was very close to Fernando's pace in Austria, but in the race previous to that, he won the Baku Grand Prix, and now he is winning this British Grand Prix as well. So he's definitely making a bit of a resurgence in the mid part of this championship. Daniel Kvyat is out of the Grand Prix. Some kind of failure. Probably engine. We know that is what always happens with the AI, but we cut onto the action a few laps later. This is now Kimi Raikkonen going to the outside, trying an overtake into Stowe. Not quite working out for him though. and we hold on to P3 as he dives into the pits for an early stop there onto the medium tyres. So for us to make this soft compound strategy work, we need to stretch these tyres out to about like lap 10, lap 11, and then we can run the softs to the end uncompromised without, you know, having to worry about any sort of punctures or anything like that. Speaking of punctures, that was Pascal Wehrlein getting one. So very unlucky times for him. We've now got Sebastian Vettel for company, as if one Ferrari wasn't company enough in this opening stint. We've now got Sebastian on the harder compounded tyres, really putting us under pressure here as the virtual safety car is deployed. I think that was for the incident with Pascal Wehrlein going really slowly, but yeah, we're now dealing with Vettel. He's got like much kind of better conditioned tyres than us, being on the harder compound, so he's going to be pretty threatening in this phase of the Grand Prix, but I'm going to do my best to not race with him too much. Fernando Alonso is out of the race.
I think I have an engine issue.
Back off, please. Back off. Okay.
I can't believe it.
Oh my goodness. I cannot believe it either. Fernando Alonso is out of the British Grand Prix. And with that, that is a massive swing in the championship towards myself. But Stoffel Van Dorn as well, who now will probably lead this race after we make our first pit stop. But wow. What a turn of events. The McLarens were leading by an absolute mile, and Fernando is going to get 0 points out of this Grand Prix. We're into the pits now. Well, I'm still having trouble processing what has just happened, but we're into the pits. Soft compound tyres are going on. Mediums for Seb right behind me. A bit of a miracle that we were able to stretch a softer compounded tyre for as long as what Vettel did on a harder compound. But anyway, there should be a fairly smooth run to the end now on the softer compounded tyres versus everyone else on the medium. So this should be a pretty fruitful time of the race for us. You can see Seb going side by side with Lewis Hamilton, who was on the super soft tyres. So I'm getting, no, that's not even Hamilton, that's Bottas. So he needs to make another stop. Yeah, that's very interesting. Holding up Seb, an absolute treat. But meanwhile, catching up to Kimi Räikkönen on the medium tyres, a little late dive to the inside as we go through Stowe Corner. Kimi parks the bus as we run now into the third sector. He goes defensive. I'm going to try and do the switchback through club section and then kind of launch myself towards him on the start finish straight there, but didn't really have the intended effect I was hoping it would get. So we'll have to bide our time for now, maybe see what our options are like as we head into turn number 2. Again, he goes defensive, we go to the outside, and we will get this move done when it turns to the inside for the next left-hander, and that is effective P2 for us in this Grand Prix. So nice move there into P2. Like I said, Hamilton was still in front of us, but still needs to make a stop himself. This is Sebastian Vettel getting tied up with one of the Mercedes, and he spun into the infield. So him and Bottas were getting pretty feisty on that last lap. That has continued on to the next one, and Vettel has ended up a long way back, and possibly with some front wing damage as well. Nico Hülkenberg is out of the Grand Prix too as well, so contenders in this race are absolutely dropping like flies now. It is quite ridiculous. Pascal Wehrlein, who had the puncture a little earlier on, getting lapped. Unfortunate for him, we asked the engineer how far ahead Van Dorn was and how much he was pulling away. It was something like 1.1 seconds. Even though we had the faster tyre on, it was still quite depressing. But anyway, we carry on to lap 21 here. You can see this is Kimi Räikkönen now coming back at us after our soft compound tyres have seemingly started to go off a little bit. I broke out the margin to Räikkönen by like 3 seconds, and then I realised I couldn't catch Van Dorn. I kind of got lazy a little bit and just kind of conserved the car to the end. And then as soon as Räikkönen got within 1 second and DRS, all of a sudden he came alive again, and his pace was amazing, and now he's really putting me under pressure here. It's not like I'm driving badly or I'm driving slowly or I have no pace. It's just that Räikkönen is quite fast. He's just quite a threat at this end of the Grand Prix. All of a sudden, he's turned up the intensity, probably turned up the fuel mixture as well, and is really applying the blowtorch to me in these dying laps of this British Grand Prix. But as you can see, it's the last lap now. Stoffel Van Dorn has been setting fastest laps of the Grand Prix at will for the last 5 laps. And yeah, for us, it's just been a case of getting to the end in second place. Räikkönen at times has been quite threatening, but for the most part, with our straight line speed, we've been able to withstand that pressure And looks like we're going to get P2 and 18 points. A very crucial day in the context of this championship. Alonso gets no points. It may not be the flashiest Grand Prix of all, but it's still a lot of points gained on Fernando.
Thank you for all your hard work out there. That was a strong drive and a good finish. Well done.
Our drivers are making their way out for the podium celebrations, and it's going to be McLaren picking up the winner's trophy. Congratulations to the entire team for that fantastic performance.
So, although we can look at this race with a lot of positives, taking the championship lead, 18 points over Fernando, there are still a lot of questions that, well, we still need to prove ourselves quite a lot. There is a big deficit in performance now to McLaren Honda after the either 1 or 2 ultimate upgrades they did in Azerbaijan. They are clearly on another level now. So it is pretty dire. It must be said, because look at how much Stoffel Van Dorn won by 30 seconds. And that was Stoffel. That wasn't Fernando, by the way. So there are a lot of tracks like this coming up. Hungary, a high downforce circuit. We've got Spa, a lot of high-speed corners there. Italy, we should be fine versus McLaren. But when it comes to Singapore, when it comes to Japan, we've got Coda, Brazil to some degree. A lot of tracks that will suit McLaren in the second half of this season. And we have no answer to them. We got very lucky today with the reliability failure for Fernando Alonso. But we can't count on this happening every 2 weeks. We just can't. So we got to go back to the drawing board. We need to make sure that we 100% get enough resource points to do the major rear downforce upgrade in the Hungarian Grand Prix. That is a fact. And we need to make sure that the front downforce upgrade that's coming in time for Spa, we need to make sure that goes on 100% without failure. And just keep up the development work, because McLaren, although they might be fast now, they are not going to be a stationary target. They're going to still continue to move forward with their development. So yeah, any points we can get now, any developments we can make now are going to be golden for our championship. But guys, that has been this episode for today. Thank you so much for watching. If you did enjoy, make sure you leave a like, subscribe to the channel if you're new. See plenty more F1 2017 content. We've been offered a contract to join other teams, but to be honest, for the sake of this story, for the sake of this career mode, we're staying with Red Bull. It makes no sense to jump in a Mercedes or to jump in a Ferrari. We're going to stay put at Red Bull, give us the greatest challenge we can get, and see if we can bring glory to this team, and we'll see what happens for the rest of the season. We could have joined Williams, but, I mean, looking at their performance chart, they're the second worst team. That's like going back to the drawing board completely with how we started with McLaren. That would be a nice prospect, but no, McLaren are just too fast to jump in a team like that. But guys, that's been this episode for today. Thank you so much for watching. We've got a very tough championship in prospect for the final 9 races, or whatever it is. Let's hope we can do it. Take down Fernando, and Stoffel for that matter, because he's gaining a lot of momentum now too. So that's it for today. Until the next one, I'll see you next time.